My skin decided to go crazy on me. I could laugh about it now, but when it was happening, I literally was ready to cry. Hi guys, welcome back to Sherry Proof. Thank you so much for joining me today. This was not a planned video, but because it happened, I decided that I am going to share it now because I literally just went through it and I don't think I ever spoke about this on my channel before. So today I want to share my experience with seborrheic dermatitis and what I did to save my skin, literally. So first of all, let me just put out my disclaimer to say, number one, I am not a doctor. I am not a dermatologist. What I'm about to share with you is my own experience based on my knowledge of ingredients and formulations and all the research that I have done over several years because of my skin, and just literally being intuitive with my skin, listening and looking and paying attention to my skin, trying to figure out what it actually needed. So this is definitely not going to take the place of any advice from your doctor if you are dealing with this, and especially if you're dealing with it in a way that is much worse than I experienced. Definitely get professional help. So many of you might already know what is seborrheic dermatitis. A lot of you probably already go through it because it's actually a very, very common skin condition that is experienced by people of all ages, from babies and children and adolescents all the way up to adults like me. And for a lot of us, we may actually know it happening, especially in the hair, more commonly known as dandruff. But seborrheic dermatitis could actually occur on the face, and that's where I actually get it. Now, I have experienced this before, probably not this bad, like maybe several years ago. Last year when the pandemic started, I actually had a flare of sebderm around my eyes and my brow area actually, and I was able to treat that at home without having to go to the doctor. It wasn't bad. It didn't spread to other parts of my face, thank God, and that was it. And since then, I actually haven't had any flares until a couple weeks ago. And my goodness. Seborrheic dermatitis, or sebderm as I will refer to it in this video, is actually thought to be an immune response from your body, or an inflammatory response of the body due to the overgrowth of a particular yeast that is found on the skin called Malassezia yeast. Some of you may be familiar with this because this is the same fungus that actually causes what we commonly refer to as fungal acne and several other skin conditions. It can actually show up in many parts of the body, but like I mentioned, it is very, very common for a lot of people to find it in their scalp. But it could actually show up in other parts of your body, even the groin area. But in terms of the face, which is where I had it, it tends to show up in the nasolabial folds. So for me, it was predominantly around my nose, coming down in this area, and then around my mouth, coming down to under my mouth. That's exactly where I got it this time. So what tends to happen is that you may see very dry, scaly, flaking, peeling skin. Sometimes the areas may be red. It may feel very, very irritated. And in some people, the patches that actually develop on the skin can become hypopigmented, like myself, which means that instead of the areas getting darker, it gets lighter. So you could imagine, I started to see this thing happening and I was just like, oh my God, you've got to be kidding me. So doctors don't actually know what is the real cause or causes of seborrheic dermatitis. However, based on a lot of studies, they have seen a lot of relations between certain things. And one of those things is the overgrowth of Malassezia yeast. Now, what happens is that this particular yeast loves oily skin, aka me. It feeds on the oil or the lipids on the skin and it converts it to oleic acid. That oleic acid could become very irritating on the skin, and that overgrowth could actually set off an immune response by your body, which causes rapid cell turnover. And that rapid cell turnover actually results in very dry, flaking, peeling skin. What is happening is that those cells are getting to the surface of the skin faster than they could hold moisture or bind moisture, and therefore you're going to have a big problem. Now, it's important to know that there are some factors that could actually trigger a flare, and I think that is what happened in my case. One of those factors is stress. Oh my goodness, my stress levels have been extremely high. Another factor is not enough sleep. Probably you're going through a period of illness, oily skin, as I mentioned, and especially if you're prone to the skin disorders, you may actually be a little bit more prone to developing seborrheic dermatitis. Now, treatment for this can vary. Because it's a fungus, you will find that a lot of the treatment is actually antifungals. So there are medications or there are particular antifungal ingredients that you could actually find in things like dandruff shampoo, which is actually used on the face to kind of treat the area and kill out that extra yeast to deal with the overgrowth of that yeast and kind of get the skin, back back into where it should be. Some people need much more and they may require corticosteroids and they may need prescriptions from their doctor. Some people may actually recover on their own. Their skin may just find its way back home, and some people may actually need some help. For some people it might be short term, for some people it might be long term. This thing could get crazy. So just to get into my own experience, I did notice that I was having some particular issues in this area, but it was like really, really mild. Nothing to really talk about, nothing that anybody would actually notice on my skin. So I remember one morning I woke up and my husband, being the first person to see me, he looked at me and he said, "What's going on with your face?" And I was like, "What do you mean what's going on with my face?" And I got off the bed and I ran to the mirror and I could not believe what I saw. Now, the thing about it is this had me a little bit down. I'm not going to lie, because you all know I'm extremely diligent with my skincare routine and, you know, making sure that my skin is hydrated and healthy and all of that. And when I saw this happening to my skin, I was just like, oh my goodness. You know, you could feel like you're putting in a lot of work and then something like this happens. Granted that it wasn't because of a particular product or anything like that. It was simply because of what was happening with my body. And that just goes to show that a lot of things that happen in our skin actually can be related to other things, you know. And I know, for example, my stress levels were extremely high and I had some of those other trigger factors going on in my life as well. So honestly, it wasn't surprising that this was the way it decided to show up on me. It's just that I wasn't expecting it. You all have no idea how difficult it was to film. I was literally slathering my face with moisturizer because the skin was so dry. It was so red. The peeling and the flaking was so bad. Like, I will put on foundation and I'll be seeing the flakes just like sticking up in the air watching me. It was extremely frustrating because it's not like if my whole life stopped, and it really wasn't pleasant for me to look at personally. I also had no idea I was going to talk about this. I really did not take any pictures. And when I actually decided that, okay, I should probably share this, I had to go into my device, my skin analyzer tool, which I'll be sharing with you soon, like literally take pictures of the pictures in that device, because that actually tracks my skin's progress. So I was able to just pull some of the photos from there, which I will share with you to kind of show you. And the photos that I actually have are photos when I was like halfway through treating my skin. So you're really not even going to see how bad it was, because it was bad. It was bad. No, I did not have any anti-dandruff shampoo at home. I actually ordered one. It hasn't gotten here yet. And basically my skin is almost back to normal. I'm watching it and I'm monitoring it very, very carefully like a hawk. But one of the things that I had to immediately do was stop all my actives. And when I say my actives, I'm talking about I stopped vitamin C, I stopped my retinol, I stopped niacinamide, I stopped all my AHAs, I stopped a lot of things. I literally had to go back to the basics and just focus on making sure that I had a cleanser, a moisturizer, SPF that was not going to be irritating my skin, that was not going to cause it to be worse. Because what was happening is that, yes, I have oily skin, but in these areas it was extremely dry, like Sahara desert dry. So I was like packing on moisturizer, and not every moisturizer was working on my skin, because there were times when I would put moisturizer on and in 2 hours you would completely see all the dryness just suddenly show back up. And there were also moisturizers that I couldn't use because it will literally burn my skin. What was happening is that when you have all this flaking and peeling going on and the skin is constantly coming off, it's going to leave redness, it's going to leave a little bit of rawness, and therefore almost anything that touched my skin in those areas where I was experiencing the sebderm was actually really, really irritating it. I sat down with my skincare collection. I sat down for a moment and I started to think, Sherry, we need to do something, because I actually asked my husband to get something for me at the pharmacy. He went to the pharmacy, he told them what was going on, asked them for what I wanted. They said, oh no, take this for her, this is going to work better. He brought it for me. I tried it for about a week and it actually made the situation worse. So I decided I'm not going to use that. Let me just try to work with what I have and just try to preserve my skin's integrity until I could actually get some stronger treatment. So the first thing that I did is I looked for all my calming ingredients. So things that I talk about all the time, and they are in my collection because I am very, very acne prone. I literally pulled for those things. So I'm talking about Centella Asiatica. I'm talking about Houttuynia cordata, also known as heartleaf, which I spoke about on Instagram recently, mugwort, green tea. All of these types of ingredients, I literally sat down with my collection. I looked at the products that I had that contained these ingredients and decided, you know what, these are the things that I'm going to use. Because I couldn't use a lot of serums and all of that, I literally was focusing a lot on the toner and essence step to really pack not only calming ingredients onto my skin, but to pack hydration on my skin, because generally after that I would be going directly to the moisturizer step because there was no vitamin C, no AHAs, no retinol, nothing. And that was driving me crazy because those are the things that really helped maintain my skin. So because I couldn't have those things in my routine, I actually started to get some breakouts at some places. My skin was starting to look a little bit dull. I was starting to have texture, and I was like, oh my God, I need to do something about this. So at the time, I actually got some PR from Abib, and I actually showed you guys this on Instagram. So the Abib Heartleaf Spot Pad. Heartleaf is actually just another term for Hortunia cordata. And these ingredients, Centella asiatica, mugwort, heartleaf, these are anti-inflammatory. Mugwort is actually antifungal. They are full of antioxidants. So while I couldn't get my vitamin C, I was packing these on my skin. So I would actually use this because it's like a toner in the form of a pad. I will use this as the toner on my skin morning and evening, and then I will go in and layer essences and toners on top of that to get hydration. Now, this is one of the brands that I've been using recently and loving. One Thing. It's called One Thing. So this is their Centella asiatica extract. This is the Hortunia cordata extract, which is also known as heartleaf as well. And I literally would pour these into my hand and do several skins. So I did this for about a week and a half in combination with the pad. And then after about a week and a half, things actually started to improve. I really wanted to bring in mugwort, but the mugwort essence that I have, or the one that I have open, is this one from Amfrom, which you all know that I actually love. In fact, let me just say this about this product. When I first started to use this, I was like, what is this actually doing? Until situations like this, or if I'm having like a really bad breakout, I actually see how much I love having this particular essence. The more I use it, the more it grows on me, the more I love it, the more I see the effects, and the more I miss it when it's not there. So I was actually afraid of using this because for some people, fermented ingredients, well, certain types of fermented ingredients such as galactomyces could actually exacerbate problems with Malassezia yeast. And I wanted to be very careful because I didn't want to put something on my skin that was going to cause the problem to be worse. So I waited a bit before bringing this in, but from the time I added this in combination with those, whew, my skin literally just started to transform. This was so good on my skin in combination with the One Thing essences, and I would literally layer. Now the thing about this particular one is it is a little bit more viscous. It's thicker than those, so I will do several layers of those and then kind of seal it off with the mugwort, and that literally would have been that hydration calming step for me. Now, I couldn't use a lot of serums, and there were literally 2 serums that I had in my routine because I couldn't use my vitamin C and all of that. But of course, one of the things is that because of this dry skin, I felt like I needed more when it comes to hydration. I want to tell you guys about this particular product because this was a savior. No joke, I have not spoken about it on my channel here. I have recommended it to people offline and so on. It is this. This is the Lanbina Ectoin Soothing Serum, and you can see that it says there for sensitive skin. Let me tell you guys a little bit about Ectoin. Ectoin is actually found in quite a few products. You probably have not seen the ingredient or noticed it before, but it is actually found in a lot of creams and products and so on for dermatitis, atopic dermatitis, and different issues with the skin because of its properties. So Ectoin is what is actually referred to as a natural stress protection molecule. It's found in plants and herbs and so on that are living in like the worst conditions, like in deserts and so on. It's something that actually came up on my radar last year. I started to pay a lot more attention to it and started to bring it into my skincare routine. But boy, oh boy, did it help my skin during this time. Ectoin, it helps to reduce inflammation and redness on the skin. It actually helps to strengthen the skin's own natural defense. It helps the regeneration process of the skin. It protects the skin from UVA, UVB, infrared, visible light. It actually helps to repair the skin from UV damage as well. And in general, it just helps to regenerate environmentally stressed skin. I've actually been using Ectoin in my skincare routine, particularly because of the properties with regards to helping to repair the skin from UV damage, because I do get melasma flare-ups as well, and also because sometimes when it comes to having breakouts or acne and so on, it's really good to have something that's going to help soothe your skin, and it's really going to be helpful, especially for reducing skin sensitivity. And that's one of the reasons why I had it. But I will use it every other day, a couple times a week and so on. When this happened, I brought it into my routine. And since I could use other serums and so on, this was going to be my main serum. So I was using this morning and evening. And when I brought that into my routine, there was a drastic change. Like if there were products that I put on my skin in trying to figure out what I could use and what I can't use, that my skin would actually feel like if it's burning. When I added this Ectoin, it will totally calm my skin. There'd be times when I feel like, oh my goodness, if I put anything on my skin at all, I'm going to feel pain. I'm going to feel very irritated. I'll put the Ectoin on and my skin will completely calm down. This thing converted me. And I was glad to have it in my routine to not only help to protect my skin from UV rays and so on, but to also help repair it in case there was any UV damage while I didn't have all these other ingredients in my skincare routine. Now, one of the very last things that I brought into my skincare routine, which I probably should have brought in before because I knew this somewhere at the back of my head, but I guess I was so afraid I just didn't do it. And then in combination with everything else, it completely just brought the whole thing to a stop. And that is the Cos de Baja Salicylic BHA 4% serum. Now, not everybody could handle 4%. You may need to try 2%. But one of the things that you should know is that salicylic acid actually inhibits the multiplication and the growth of Malassezia. And that's what I'm saying. I know this, but I was just so afraid that it might burn my skin because my skin was so irritated, so red and so peeling and so on, that I was afraid to bring it in. But my goodness, because I had no acids and no retinol in my skin, like the texture that was building up on my skin was a lot, especially in this particular area. Like my goodness, I was having a lot of texture, clogged pores and so on in this area as well. So I actually said that I was going to try the salicylic acid to kind of help in this area because I wasn't really having the seb dermatitis in this area. Remember, I was having it here. But what I did is when I started to apply the salicylic acid, I applied it there. And then I said, you know what? Malassezia yeast feeds on oil. Let me try to help that extra sebum production with salicylic acid. I literally started to apply the salicylic acid around my nose, around my mouth. And I was doing this every single night. And in 2 days, it was like whatever was happening with my skin completely stopped. There are more things that I could tell you about this entire experience, but I think that's all I'm going to share for now. Like I mentioned, I wasn't planning to share this, but because I was getting a lot of comments about my skin, people telling me that my skin looks so nice and all of that. And I'm like, if you guys only know what I have been dealing with for the last couple of weeks, and I just wanted to share it with you. So do you deal with seborrheic dermatitis? What do you do? Do you have to get treatments? Do any of you guys use dandruff shampoos, anything like that? I know it could be a real struggle for a lot of people because for some people, it may not be as short-term as me. It is a constant ongoing issue because there could be underlying immune issues that cause it and all kinds of things. I would love to hear below what you guys think about this video, and for those of you who may have it, I'd love to hear how you treat it at home, if you do treat it at home. And we'll talk again soon. Take care, guys. Bye.